Quickly, like Susanna already mentioned, there's a Twitter handle. I do a lot of things. I'm also chief one to blame for the Web Summer Camp. I'll say a few words. Company that sponsors my being here is NetGame from Croatia. We also do one of the things is Layouts, which is a Symfony-based tool for managing blogs and components on the website. So if you need something like a nice editorial view in your Symfony application, then come to me. We'll summer camp, August to September, 3 days, 2 workshop days, 1 conference day. There is a nice discount code which I will tweet later, but you can come to me later and use it. So it's in Croatia. It's very near to Italy. You can actually drive from here. We don't bite, so okay. So that was the quickest introduction. Now we can get to the topic. So, why this topic? Well, I was, let's say I'm a very occasional developer because I am an engineer for 20-something years, but I also manage the company, so I'm kind of less and less a developer through the years. I occasionally, of course, fix bugs and do that stuff. I don't do a lot of coding anymore. But I was frustrated with a lot of things before, and I also see the frustration in a lot of developers today with the legacy, or the legacy code, let's say. So that's why I just wanted to kind of show or express my thoughts about it and help a bit. This is not a technical talk. I would more say it's a philosophical talk. So if you are bored with philosophy, now is the time to get out. So we'll start with the story of Z, but before that, just a quick couple of questions. So, actually a very stupid question. How many of you are developers? Probably all of you. So, no, keep your hands, keep your hands. So, how many of you deal with legacy code every day? Okay, obviously. So I'm in the right room, okay. One more. Leave the hands if you like working with legacy. Okay. Wow, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 10 people. Applause. So hopefully there will be a bit more after we finish this. So the story of Zed, how it goes. So, meet Zed. He is he just graduated in IT. He is a developer, or wants to be a developer. He wants to use new technology, new cool technology. He did some projects, but never finished them. He searches for internship. He joins the company that is offering this new technology stuff. Insert whatever buzzword you can think of: serverless, microservices, headless, Rust, I don't know, whatever, Kubernetes, LLMs, ChatGPT, I don't know, whatever. Of course, he avoids the companies that use old technologies, and I'm on a PHP conference. Okay, so after 1 month, things are not looking very good. He's a bit frustrated, let's say. So he got the first project. Onboarding took a lot of time. For a simple feature, he needed 1 month. He thought it will be 2 days. There's a lot of documentation missing. One of the seniors left a few months ago, so there's a big kind of unknown, don't touch, it works kind of things. There is this WTF moment very often. Whose code is this? He screams. Okay. So after a couple of months, years, doesn't matter, he survived somehow in this company on this project. So finally, the developers wanted and the business approved. We are starting from scratch. We will do the rewrite because this current code is unmanageable. Let's just do the full rewrite. So they started and they used the new technology, the newest from the sort. Insert whatever shiny buzzword you want. They have the time, they have the team, they plan everything. Everything will be perfect. It will be much better than the previous or the old system. So near the go live, things look great. There's a big optimism in the sky. There are some rough edges. There should be just some quick fixes before going live because there is a deadline. Marketing already is talking about the date. So there are some compromises. No time for tests, of course. Business requires small features because the main manager thought about something cute, so like kittens or something. So they needed to add it. So they are finally live. But there's this first truth that I learned in 20 plus years. No software, no new software ever survived the first contact with the users. There is always some things, bugs, wrong features, whatever. And there's a lot of things to fix, edge cases. Of course, users started to require more features. You know how it goes, backlog grows. Business wants to monetize, of course. So then there is this thing called technical debt. That's actually how I see technical debt. Business as usual, hundreds of new features added. The technology goes and it's no longer a cool new technology because there is some new cool technology in the site. So yeah, a lot of compromises. Then the churn happens. The churn, well, I can't remember the last time I wrote meaningful code. Says Z. So he left and became a security guard. Talking about career change. Yeah. Context is lost because one of the main guys left. Yeah. We are more or less in the same place where we were 5 years ago. Meet Fabienne. A new developer was hired because they need, of course, to replace Z. And of course, she got the task to add new features. I don't need to say anything, everything is there. Whose code is this? Zed's. Who's Zed? Come on. Zed is gone. So, that was the story of Zed. Anyone recognizes him or herself? So, what for you is legacy code? Anyone? Yeah. Okay, fair enough. Anyone else?
Something that's part of your system or infrastructure that works.
Very good. Very good. I like it.
A black box. That works.
Okay. Very close. Yeah, okay. So my definition of legacy code is Yeah. So you write your shiny new code and it's somewhere on Bitbug or GitHub and you test and it works great because you don't cover edge cases, you don't know the bugs, you don't need to write the documentation, it's perfect. But as soon as you go to production, then the user hits, you have production log levels with weird stuff in there, you don't know what's happening. It somehow works, but you don't know how, etc., etc. So for me, whatever is in production, that's actually already legacy code. You don't feel it at the beginning, but it will come and be legacy code, at least what we perceive as legacy code. Because legacy code has a bad sound to it, right? Remember the beginning? Only 10 people like to work on legacy code. So, what is technical debt? Anyone? Nobody knows. Oh. So, just a quick story. 15 years ago, we started with a project. It was a shop, e-commerce system. And of course, it was working fine. It was on PHP 5 point something. And of course, eventually, over the years, it kind of slowed down and there was no much activity, but it worked. And there was only one guy left who did occasional fixes. And a couple of years ago, there was a big legal change. And we needed to do the change, but it was tricky. It was not a big change, but it was tricky because it was in the checkout process. So it dealt with money, right? So you wanted to test it before putting it in production. And there was, even this guy was not there for some reason, I can't remember. And then there was only me, occasional developer, who needed to do the change. And I went into this code. I presumed I need 5 hours, you know, to do 2, 3 lines of code change, test it, deploy it, and I'm done. So maybe 5 hours in total, everything, right? And it took me around 50 hours first to actually fix the broken testing system, to actually consolidate the configuration, which was a total mess. There was a couple of Git repos for who knows what reason, so I need to consolidate it into one Git repository so that the deployment can be easily fixable and that the deployment can be rolled back if there is something wrong in production. It took me 50 hours to do that. So that's an example of a technical debt. I needed to pay 50 hours of the debt. So debt, the technical debt, is the price you pay for not maintaining the code. Not just code, but everything around the code, also deployment procedures, the whole DevOps thing, whatever, but the system. I say the code, but I actually mean the whole system, the application. So, a couple of misconceptions that I see in new developers coming, the fresh ones that are, you know, relatively idealistic and optimistic, etc. So, developer's job is just to write code. What about documenting, removing obsolete code, upgrading, refactoring, writing tests, and all that stuff, mentoring, automating tasks, etc., etc., etc. So it's a long, long list. So first of all, if you have a developer that, okay, I just write code, can you please document it? So if you don't do that, then the technical debt will rise. And maybe if you are lucky, it will not bite you. You will maybe in the future not need, you will not pay it, maybe, but that's a maybe, it's a risk. Maybe it will bite you. So you should have enough time for technical debt. That's actually more for a thing for the business. So the business or the product owners, the project managers, the C-level, the whoever decides on the money, on the budgets, this is something for them. But you need to fight for that time. They will not give it to you because they don't see the result. They don't see if you spend 20 hours on fixing configuration. They don't see it. They are reluctant to pay for that time. But you need to convince them that it is necessary. Imagine a garden. So this is a very well-maintained garden. Imagine in 1 year if there is no gardener. you will not be able to pass through it. Imagine that. So that's the same is like code. You need to maintain it, take care of it, that you actually can do something without, and it looks nice. Once you build it, you are done. Yeah, right. It's actually, the implementation phase is quite small comparing to the life of the whole, or the life of the whole application. It's easy to make greenfield code and then off to another greenfield project. That's easy. The hard bit is about supporting something that already exists. That's the hard part. It's also challenging. So the total cost of ownership, if you spread it through the lifetime of application, and if you compare it to the implementation cost, the total cost is way higher. Way higher. Technical debt equals code shittiness. Yeah, that's a usual one. This code doesn't match my personal preferences. I want like to have tabs instead of spaces. I want, I don't know, curly braces here and not there, or whatever is the current fight or wars in among developers or among PHP developers. So it somehow got connected that the legacy code or the actually working code is bad code, or it's usually bad code, but it's developer's fault. It's your fault. So there's this, like cycle, vicious cycle, that because you have a bad perception about maintaining code that you didn't write, it kind of gets unmaintained more, and it gets even more bad perception. Legacy code is bad code. I don't know whoever thought about that. I have a strong reason against that. So probably it's not very well architectured, because why? Because it got modified and changed and adapted and glued together and neglected and duct taped and whatever over the years, because life. But it works. It works. That's the 100% better thing than the code you write and you start rewriting, but it's not working. I mean, it's not on production. So it's 100% better than the new code that you write, until you replace it. When you replace it, it's on production, then your code is better. And until then, the old code is better. My code is perfect, of course. Yeah. No code will ever be perfect. Of course, you still need to maintain it, improve it, adapt it over time, so it sucks less. But it will never be perfect. But it will suck less. The difference between good code and bad code is the amount of what the fuck moments per minute. That's a very important. So it's not about you. If you write code, you need to think about the reviewers and your fellow developers. How will they handle that code? Now to the favorite part. The crucial part of today's talk is fixing old code or legacy code is annoying, is boring, is hard. Why do I ever had to do this? I don't understand, and WTF and all that stuff. Yeah, I know, I've been there. I know. I feel with you. But make it a challenge. Do not judge the previous developer. You don't know in which circumstances he worked. Maybe he had a bad manager, and then he was frustrated, etc., etc. So do not judge. Practice what I called, and my fellow colleague, one of my colleagues called code archaeology. Go deep in the trenches, in the pyramids, under the hood. Find the reason, what a writer or what the developers meant when he wrote this beautiful piece of code. That's code archaeology. It's fun. Of course, there is this rule. Who knows about this or knew about this rule? Okay, that's good. So whenever you open a file, now you are in a trap. You need to fix at least one thing before you save it or go further. Okay? That's maintaining the code. And then this famous, let's just do the full rewrite, which is something that you, I presume, think about a lot of times. But in reality, it's usually more efficient not to rewrite because it's just a huge effort. So sometimes you need, because of external circumstances, maybe the big component that you use, I don't know, was bought by Microsoft or something. Whatever, there are always some reasons to rewrite. Of course, it's not that I'm against rewrites. It's just that I think that that it's too easy deciding that, okay, let's just do the rewrite. And the major reason why is that you get this current unmanageable code because you didn't maintain it. But the same culture that produced the old system, and if they write the new system, it will be the same. Garbage in, garbage out. If you have the same team, how do you know they will produce something better the second time or the third time? Because it's about culture, about maintenance and stuff, and not about writing beautiful code. So I will leave you with a couple of appreciations that you need to learn. Working code, that's actually not the legacy code. I don't call it legacy, I call it working code. It deserves some attention on documenting, of course, as much as possible, automating deployments, tests, upgrading, because you always have new versions of PHP, so obviously we need to upgrade, and the frameworks and the bundles and the repositories, open source code, you need to catch up all the time. There's always some dead code around you need to remove. Making it easy to make changes easy. And of course, many more things, just an idea. Yeah. That happens too often. Yeah. I teach new developers, at least. I'm no longer a developer, so I try to teach the new developers all the things that I didn't do when I was a junior. And then, of course, the documentation. Documentation, when I say documentation, I mean actually whatever you can do to help someone else to onboard on the code. So it's also naming conventions, it's about comments in the code, it's about, you know, wiki pages that explain stuff, whatever. It's very broad topic. It's not just, you know, document. And find challenges. So find challenges. It's not just challenge, oh, okay, I will do something, write something beautiful from scratch, but try making a challenge to taking an old piece of crappy code and make it better. That's a challenge. You can find joy in that. Practice the whys. So whenever you try to do something, the developer needs to understand what he is doing it, or actually why he is doing it, to make at least naming better. And why is that important? Because someone who reads the code will understand better. If you add confusing or even wrong names into your variables and functions, how will this Fabienne or Zed or whoever understand what was the idea behind this code? So there should be clear communication on why we are doing it. Actually document the why. You don't, when you write a new function, don't explain what it does. Explain why it does. That's far more important than what it does. Actually, what it does should be self-explanatory by the code itself. And practice what ifs. So, just coming back to the Breaking Bad, the most important one, but the bus effect. What if this tech lead gets hit by a bus and, you know, he's gone. So what then? What happens then? Did you ever experience such an event? Anyone? Not actually the bus. When a senior developer leaves and then you have a... Okay, a lot of bus accidents in Italy, obviously. Yeah, can we remove this part of code, maybe refactor it, maybe use a library instead which does exactly the same, so we reduce the amount of code we do, less code, less maintenance. What if we remove this dependency because we only use small part of something like huge library and we use only one function which is more or less stupid, so maybe fix it. I needed to add one ChatGPT, come on. Add so on, so on. So I will leave you with 2 slides, or actually 2 sentences. This is my claim. If you don't regularly maintain your code, you are not a complete software engineer. You can throw eggs and tomatoes at me, but this is what I, after 20 years, think very strongly. We can discuss it later during the happy hour. And my also wish is that you appreciate legacy code and find joy in owning and maintaining it, because that's, I would say, 80% of our developer life is actually this. So if you are only happy with these 20%, you are missing on that other 80%, and then you will probably seek career change, like Femke explained earlier. That's it for me.
Thank you so much. You made it interesting and funny. I mean, come on, that's
Of course.
success. So, any questions, anyone?
They are totally like
That stands to silence, right? I mean,
a lot of thinking in their heads.
yeah.
Yeah, there is one.
So I really love legacy code, so thank you for the talk. I think that the most difficult part is to explain to a customer the time to maintain the code.
I know.
So do you have an advice about how to explain the importance to a customer to spend the time and the money to maintain the code?
Yeah, that's $1 million question. There is no answer. You need to be stubborn and persistent and loud and make a lot of facts, you know, like make slides or explain it with facts. You will lose money, there's a big risk, blah, blah, blah. They like this kind of stuff. So I would love that that I can give you, 5 slides so that you can just present it. It's not that easy. It's specific to the project. So you need to think about I would say that risk, you need to focus on the risk. So they just say, with the what ifs. So imagine that this guy gets hit by a bus. Imagine that. We will be late like 6 months because there is no knowledge. We will need to catch up. We will need to spend 6 times just to, find the common ground again. So I would say the risk is the best option to fight them. But I was more focused on the developers because you are developers, and maybe on the business conference I would focus on business. And I will just tell them you need to budget at least 20% of the time for maintenance. Yeah. Anyone else?
There was a very popular article some time ago on Joyland Software about legacy code. Are you aware of it, and did it inspire this talk? Or?
I read a lot of articles about
Okay.
this, so it's not like just from my head. It's just that kind of, I read about it, but then consolidated more or less what I was experiencing in 20 years. So maybe I don't remember all the stuff that I read about it. So
No, that's-
yeah, but there are a
it
couple
was
of
just a curiosity because it was very, very similar actually.
well, I
Yeah.
mean, it's a common topic. So
Indeed.
yeah,
Thank you.
I think we should do the happy hour now,
Okay. Well, thank you,
or
everyone.
close it before. So thank
Once
you.
again, thank you, Ivo.